Super conference discussion galore across this country for college football and college athletics in general. Texas and Oklahoma are going to be voted through to the SEC today. They're meeting on that today as a conference. And with that in mind, Withrow brought in a great layout and a super conference plan for further expansion, because he and I both agree they're not stopping at 16. There's no reason ESPN would want them to stop at 16 whenever their TV agreement goes into place in 2025. And with that in mind, Chad, you're starting this concept by branching out to 20.
Yeah, and credit where credit is due. The basis for my plan was what Clint Lamb from Outkick laid out, and we had him on last week to discuss it.
Which was thorough.
Thorough, and it was the 4-pod, 4-division plan with the now existing 16 teams that will be in the conference, with Oklahoma and Texas coming into it. I went ahead and said, what are some reasonable teams that you could go get right now if you're the SEC? Now, there will be some debate about what's reasonable and what they could actually do. I'm just eliminating the Big Ten from this discussion. I think it's very expensive if a team wanted to get out of the Big Ten. I also think the Big Ten is most well-positioned for success outside of the SEC. So for those purposes, I eliminated the Big Ten. Let's look at it. And this is what the new conferences look like if you were to add one team into each division of Clint Lamb's plan at Outkick. So in the SEC East, Florida, LSU, Georgia, South Carolina. Clemson is a natural. I'm looking at this from a brand and a football perspective. Keep this in mind. The last time realignment happened in 2011, cable network and market size were much bigger factors than they are right now. Example, Maryland and Rutgers, they're not getting in the Big Ten in 2021. They got in 2011 because they looked around and said, oh, now we get the New York market and we get Baltimore and D.C. with Maryland. Even though people in those markets probably don't really care about Maryland or Rutgers as much as they would want to say, they're just wanting to add TV markets. TV markets, less of a factor. So Clemson, not a great TV market, obviously, but an enormous brand and a lot of football cachet. They make sense to add to the SEC. Keep in mind also the ACC, it's 15 years left on their grant of rights agreement. I still think it would be easier for ACC programs to leave as opposed to the Big Ten. And I think it makes more sense because, as I said before, I believe the Big Ten is set up for more success than the ACC. Let's go to the SEC West. This is sort of an old Southwest Conference Big 8 scenario. Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. The program I'm adding out of the Big 12, Oklahoma State. Again, market size doesn't matter as much. It's about football. It's about brand. It's about amount of fans. For that reason, I'm adding Oklahoma State. They can stop bitching to the state of Oklahoma about Oklahoma leaving them, because in my plan, they're going to the SEC as well. They'll join this new SEC West. SEC South, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, perfect fit. Alabama, Auburn, perfect fit. You keep both Mississippi schools together, both Alabama schools together, and you add the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State is not an AAU accredited university. You know who doesn't give a damn about AAU accredited universities? The Southeastern Conference. They're not being considered for a Big Ten expansion because they only allow AAU accredited universities. They don't care in the SEC. They care about money. They care about sport success. They care about brand. Florida State has all of that, especially in football. They're in the new SEC South. SEC North. And this is where people will be mad at me and say, oh, well, you're really cutting Tennessee a break, your alma mater. Look, I didn't create the United States map. I'm doing something that makes sense geographically with what we're doing, and that's also part of this in my consideration. I wanted to do some things that made some sense geographically. Makes it a little bit neater that way. SEC North, Tennessee, Vandy, Kentucky, Missouri. I'm adding West Virginia to the SEC. There's a lot of talk right now about West Virginia and Cincinnati making a play for the ACC. West Virginia leaving the Big 12, Cincinnati leaving to go to the ACC. They tried, Cincinnati did, when the ACC admitted Louisville before. West Virginia, Again, not taking in mind the market size because it doesn't matter as much with streaming options becoming more and more prevalent. Huge fan base, SEC mentality, good brand. I think West Virginia makes a ton of sense for the SEC, and not many people are talking about the Mountaineers in this expansion. But this would give you a 20-team super conference that I believe would be positioned well. It makes sense from a cultural standpoint, brand standpoint, and first and foremost from a football standpoint.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time Outkick 360 goes live. We are live weekdays, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, right here across the Outkick network. And while you're at it, like this video and let us know what you think in the comments below.